to take a look at it. You know, I mean, I'm not expecting too much of damage because there are families living in both of them. And so again, hopefully when we get inside, because I haven't gone inside either, we'll see something that's not going to totally surprise us, you know. And so guys, that's one of my listings I got. I hopefully got some others coming on. But if I tell you before I get it on paper, y'all might take it from me.
How much did you say you were trying to sell for?
$429,000.
$429,000.
$429,000, which is a bargain with two properties. On 18,000 square foot lot.
That is. I think I have a buyer.
Oh, look at you. And I got a buyer too.
I know. You gonna need to be able to, I'll be fine.
Hey guys, I would love to work with you. You know what we do. We use the Alpha and Omega escrow, and we're going to use my title, but again, we're going to work it in-house. That's a beautiful thing. I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm totally shocked. I'm surprised. Mel Wilson don't have a necktie on today. But I'm sure he's got his reason. He's got his reason. This is his office, guys. And so I'm going to get out there and let him talk and do this.
I have it in my car.
Thank you, everybody. All right.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Rodney. Truth be known, Rodney, I'm going to go get a haircut after this meeting, so my tie's in my car. Thank you all. How's everybody this morning?
Good.
Good. Good to see you all. Good to see you, Carissa. Do you remember everyone here? Okay. You remember Lillian?
No.
That's Lillian. That's her. That's her.
We introduced ourselves.
Okay, great. All right, so let me just walk you through, if I can, some things I want to cover about problem solving in a transaction. So the last few weeks we've been talking a lot about listings and prospecting for listings. And so I want to go through some of the things that I think will help you with your clients that you're listing properties with, and also should help you in getting a listing. Anybody interested in hearing about that?
Sure, Mr. Wilson.
Okay, very well. So let me just move forward. Rodney, can you check with Bonnie to make sure that everyone is getting us online with the GoToMeeting? Thank you. All right. Can you turn those lights off? Thank you, Lillian. Okay. So what I want you to think about is, how do you keep your transaction on track? First of all, you have to get a transaction in order for you to keep it on track, right? So I want you to also realize that you can control your own destiny in real estate by getting listings. If you are working predominantly with buyers, you're going to have a roller coaster ride in real estate. Would you agree?
Yes.
Because buyers, right now we're still in a market where the sellers have the slight advantage over the buyers. How many of you are finding that the inventory is still kind of tight?
It depends.
It depends on what?
If your client wants a 3-bedroom and 2-bath for under $600,000, there's a lot of inventory.
There is a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
For $600,000.
Yeah, for $600,000. I mean, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and
All right.
yeah, I mean. So it depends on
Okay, so I guess it depends on your price point for your clients.
Location, San Bernardino, there's still a lot of homes.
Sure. Victorville, they still have a few homes in Palmdale and Pear Blossom, right? Okay, but if you have clients who are in this market that we're in, then inventory is a little bit tight. So here's what I do is I pray before, I pray during, and I pray after I start. So I want you to do the same thing. I had a meeting last week with Anna, and she told me that she's on this prayer mission, and that it's really giving her a lot of peace, and she's setting aside disciplined time every day to pray about whatever she needs to pray about. And so, Anna, I took your message, and I'm following your lead. I'm starting to do the same thing for myself, and I just want to encourage everybody with that. So what I want you to do is I want you to practice your listing presentation. Rodney, do you know where my pointer's at? Practice your listing presentation. How many of you have a listing presentation? Can I see your hands? Okay, I see one hand and one finger. Okay. All right. So one person has the listing presentation. Well, okay, now you're ready. Okay. So we have at least two people. Oh, here, Rodney. I found it. Thank you, Rodney. That was good. Okay, Anna, you said you have one? You do or you don't?
Yeah, I do.
You do. You do have a listing presentation. How many of you actually role play?
By myself,
Role play?
by myself.
By yourself, Rodney?
Sometimes when we do it here.
No.
How many of you would like to be more involved in the ongoing practice of role playing? Does anyone here would like to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll figure out how to incorporate that into what we do. All right? When you're on a listing presentation, one of the things that I find that a lot of people are not very good at is asking for the listing. They go on a listing appointment and they don't actually ask for the listing. They just sit there and they talk about the CMA, they talk about the market, they talk about the forms, but they never really say, I'd like to put your home on the market and can we get started today? Most people are afraid to ask that question. They're afraid they're going to hear an answer that's going to be what? No. And so they don't want to be rejected, so here they don't ask for the order. And what I want you to do is ask for that listing at least 5 to 8 different times. Of course, if they say yes, don't ask 5 or 8 different times. If they say yes, then you just take the forms out. You have them already completed. How many of you complete the forms before you get to your listing appointment? Okay, most of you do. What information do you complete in there?
Everything except I take several of them, so
Okay, let me hear what yours are, Mark.
I take several forms. One is blank.
Okay.
I mean, it has a property address,
Right.
but it's blank on commission.
Right.
It's blank on price,
Okay.
and then I do 2 with price.
Okay. How about you, Anna? Thank you, Mark. Mark, let me just repeat it for those who can't hear Mark. Mark takes several forms. One is blank and one is completed. He doesn't have the list price and he doesn't have the commission on it. Is that right, Mark?
Correct.
Okay. Anna?
Yeah, I pretty much do the same thing, except that I added all the disclosures. I bring everything with me, because that gives me a time to explain it everything, so they will know exactly why am I charging 6% or whatever percentage I'm charging.
Okay. All right. So Anna takes all the forms. She has them all completed, including the disclosures, and she explains to the client what she's doing with for them, the disclosure, and why she's should be getting paid 6% of whatever her fees that she's requesting. Is that right? Okay, so I want you to complete all the forms, and here's something that I notice a lot of people do not do. They do not highlight the form where they want the clients to initial or to give their authorization or approval. I try not to say sign it because a lot of people don't like to hear that word sign. They hear contract, they're afraid. They hear sign, they're afraid. So I say I need your approval. I need your authorization. I need your go-ahead. I use terms like that instead of using the direct contract sign. Okay? Now, if I have a person who's a very direct person, I'll just tell them, okay, I need you to sign it right here. But a lot of people are fearful of contracts, and so I call it a corporate listing agreement, a marketing agreement. I call them all these different things. They all are the same form. They're the residential listing agreement or commercial listing agreement, whatever the agreement you have. So that's what I do when I work with them. And I ask for the order throughout the transaction. And how many of you, when you ask for the order the first time, they always say yes?
Order.
You ask for them to sign the agreement. They always say yes the first time you ask them. Okay, the room is kind of quiet. Nobody's had that response yet, right? Rodney's had it how many times?
Not good.
Not many, not often. Okay, William is trying to dig
I was
deep.
going to say rarely.
Rarely, okay.
But sometimes I already know I'm going to have it signed and I don't have to ask.
Okay, all right. So that's what William says. Sometimes he knows he's going to have it signed so he doesn't have to ask. But for the majority of the time, you're going to have to ask for the transaction. You're going to have to ask for their approval to move forward with the transaction. And you might have to ask multiple times. And sometimes the responses you get will be, well, I'm going to think about it. Or let me sleep on this. Or let me talk to my son about, or my daughter about it. Well, can I have my attorney review it? Or can I talk to my accountant? Right? Or let me talk to my boyfriend. Or let me talk to my girlfriend. Or can I talk with my kids about it? There are all kinds of stalling tactics, and I've heard most of them. And so, I'll say, sure, you can talk to them. Why don't we authorize this now, and I'll give you a signed copy of it, and then you can show them what you've already agreed to. How's that? And they'll say, oh, no. And I'll say, well, why don't we go ahead and move forward now? I mean, don't you want to have a restful night's sleep for those who want to sleep on it? I said, wouldn't you like to be at peace tonight in your sleep? Why don't we take care of it now and get this behind us? And I say things like that so that they can see, oh, okay. Most people want to make a decision, but they're fearful of making a decision, and especially when it involves something as valuable as their real estate, right? So you're going to have to ask for the order multiple times, and I would say do not get out of that house or wherever you're sitting down until you ask for it at least 5 times. You're going to get at least 5 rejections, and you're going to ask different ways. Well, wouldn't you like to move forward? Oh, don't you want to get started now? Or when would you like to have the dollars in your pocket? Or when do you want to have the llaves given to the other person? Or when do you want to move into the other house? You have to ask for the order, and you have to continually ask because most people want you to ask for the business. Those of you who are sitting back saying, well, I don't want to be rude, I don't want to be a pushy agent, I'm not a pushy agent, guess what's going to happen? The next good agent is going to come along and get that listing that you thought you were going to get. Even if they promise you, oh, yeah, I'll get back with you. How many of you had someone say, I'll get back with you? And how many have they actually gotten back with you? Do they always get back with you? No, that's just a stalling tactic that they use. Huh?
I say you have to keep on calling.
You have to stay on top and you have to keep on calling. All right, so highlight the signature lines because there are probably at least 10 or more places where they have to authorize or give their approval. And most of them have never seen the listing contract before. How many of you send a pre-listing package to your client ahead of time? Anybody here? Okay, Keith does, Mark does sometimes. All right, so most of them have not seen one before, and those who have probably haven't read it. Okay, so what you want to do is make it easy for them. What I typically do is I will take a pen, and then I will engage the pen so the ink portion is able to be written on. And then what I'll do is I'll point to the highlighted area. And then I'll place the pen right on that highlighted area so they'll know I'm waiting for your approval. So make sure you have your pen. Okay? That's what I do to make it easy for them. And usually what I do typically is I'll start off with the form, which I'll share with you in a minute. And I actually authorize my agreement with them or my disclosure with them early on. And I start writing first so they get in the habit of seeing somebody write. Are you with me?
Yes.
You're not.
You said, yeah, you get it, start writing so they get in the habit of writing.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Keith. All right, so here's what you want to do. What you want to do is you want to start prospecting. And what you want to do is you want to set an appointment. Who has your, is that on your phone? Okay. And then you prepare for your presentation. All right, so how do you prepare for your presentation? One of the first things I do is I order a property profile. I'll go on the title company's website and I'll get a profile. It'll tell me some basic information about this property. It may even give me a history of how long they've had the property, what encumbrances or loans or things they have against the property, how often they refinance the property, whether they've changed title from themselves to someone else, into a trust or whatever. It gives me a lot of good information on this profile. And the profile in many cases will give you comparable sales, right? Yes. And you know you can choose those sales or you can just use all those sales as comparables. You can narrow it down to those sales that are comparable to the subject property, or you can show them the whole gambit of properties that the title company has recorded in that area. Okay? So the next thing I do is I run an MLS, comparables. Now some of you get really hung up on, oh, I need to do a CMA. I don't know how to do a CMA. You know what? Don't get hung up on that. Make it simple. You ever hear the old thing? Keep it simple. You know what? Keep it simple. Special person, right? Okay. Keep it simple. Don't say, oh, you know, should I do a cloud CMA? Or should I do a regular CMA? Or should I use a different CMA from a different company? Or should I have my logo on it? You know, everybody gets into all these things, and all you're doing is delaying the whole process. That's what you're doing. You're overanalyzing what you should do. Just keep it simple. And so what I do is I show the active, the pending, the sold, the expired, and the canceled. What do you guys do?
Yep, that's it.
You do the same?
I do, yeah, I don't include expired and
Okay.
canceled, but, that's good information.
All right. So here's why I use expired and canceled. Some of us do all these. They show active, pending, sold, expired, and canceled. Some of us don't show expired and canceled. Here's why I show expired. I want them to know that not every property sells. Most people think my house is going to sell, and my house is the best house on the block, and I don't care if those other houses sold for $450. I'm asking $600 for mine. So I want them to know not every property sells. Sometimes it's not listed at the right price, and they just don't sell. And sometimes people change their mind, right? They cancel the listing for whatever reason. So what I typically do is I want to show them there's other activity going on in their neighborhood, because inevitably what will happen is they'll say, well, what happened to that house that was on the market down the street? And if you don't have it in your comparable list, they're going to begin to have suspicion. What else are you not showing me? Yes, Rodney.
You want to kind of show how many days on market is out of the state too, and that's kind of a good tool to probably help you with how you want to sell fashion.
Wow, Rodney, that's a great segue into my next part right here, right on the statistics. But Nancy had her hand up. Yes, Nancy.
Oh, no, I just questioned the expired. Is that your way of telling them, hey, if you list it at a high price,
Right.
it might expire.
Right.
Just FYI.
Right. That's one of the ways I tell them. I
To kind of back
said,
up.
not every property sells, and one of the ways I say that is that these properties were on the market for a period of time. They did not sell. They expired. They said, what is that? Somebody died? No. That means that the contract time has ended. And so, yes, not every property sells. If you overprice your property, you're actually hurting yourself and not helping yourself. Okay? All right, so Rodney asked the segue. Yes, Lillian.
What is the house near the one you're,
What if what?
the house that you're trying to list? What happens if the house nearby is bigger and then you don't have it because the square footage is much bigger?
I have everything in that market area. I go by a radius map, and I get everything in that area that was on the market and that sold, expired, listed. I don't discriminate a 2-bedroom versus a 4-bedroom versus a 1,000 square foot. I don't do that. I put them all out there so that they can see everything in their market. Because what happens is if you neglect to put something, it just begins to erode their confidence in your information. They begin to think, what else are you not showing me? So I show it all.
Even though it's not comparable to that property.
Even though it's not comparable. And then I go through the comparables individually with them, and I'll show them and tell them, well, this is not really a good comparable sale because it's 800 square feet and your house is 1,500 square feet. But I still show them the information. All right? So, good question. DOM is not that you're a dummy. This is like days on market. Days on market. ADM, what is that? Average days on market. All right? BOM, what does BOM stand for? Back on market. And then the APR, average price reduction, okay? What I try to do is show what other people are doing. And you know, when you go to your Southland Regional Association of Realtors website and you go on the statistics, you're going to find a form at the bottom under the one that shows I think it's called a summary. When you look that up, it's going to have something that has average days on market, average list price to sales price, expires, average price reduction dollar-wise, average price reduction by percentage, all that information on the statistics for your srer.com/statistics, okay? All right, so the next thing is I go through my listing presentation. I would recommend that you have some type of a listing presentation. You know, and when you go through your listing presentation and then they're ready to authorize, don't keep going through it. Don't say, well, no, I have 10 more pages I want to show you first. Don't do that. When they're ready, measure the temperature and to say, well, are you in agreement with me? That's not one of the ways you can measure their temperature of wanting to move forward. Do you feel like you're ready to make this move now? These are little questions that you can ask as you're making your presentation. But I will tell you, some of you get these elaborate CMAs that have 30 pages on it because you went to RPR and you wanted to show them how smart you were. And they're like, you know what, I don't have time for this. Don't do it. Okay? Have the information there, but if they're ready to make that decision now, help them make the decision and get the listing and get out of there. Did you hear me? Get the listing, don't hang around, go, get going. Yes, Rodney?
You know, I was gonna say, are you gonna bring it up when if a client says, just show me what the price is, let me see how much, you talking about selling this house for. They don't wanna go through no presentation or anything.
Yes.
Well, they do that, but what I do is I want to give them market conditions before I give them a price. Some clients, they'll say, well, how much is my house worth? So one of the first things I do, and this is not I'm not going through that today, is I walk through the house. I ask them to give me a tour of their home. And I ask them to show me the improvements that they've made. And then I ask them questions like, what have you enjoyed most about this home while you were here? And they said, well, I like my wife, but she's dead, so I don't like this house anymore, right? Or whatever. They'll tell you what they've liked most about this house, right? So I will go through that, but I will put them off on giving them a price until I go through my the basis of my presentation, because if they just want to focus on price and not what I'm doing for them, then, when it comes to getting the commission that I think I deserve, they may not be willing to pay me. All right? So I just ask them, we're going to get to that. And then I'll ask them a question. If they keep pressing me on it, I'll say, well, what do you think your house is worth?
My favorite question.
They ask me, I'll say, well, what do you think it's worth? And they'll, I don't know, you're the expert, you tell me. Well, I think you have some idea, right? And they say, well, no, I really don't. So let's say the house is worth $450,000 to $500,000. And you ask them 2 or 3 times, what do you think the house is worth? And they say, well, I don't really know, I have no idea. And so you say, well, would you sell it for $250,000? And then they're going to look at you like, what? Are you crazy? My house is worth more than that. So they already know. They know in their mind what they think their house is worth. They're just unwilling to share that with you at that time. But most of them have an idea of some range. They may not be an expert like you. Most of them are not. But they have some knowledge of how much they think their house is worth. And with the internet being as pervasive as it is now, people can go online. They can get a Zestimate and an estimate. They can get all this information. And they have done it most of the time without telling you. They've already done their homework. All right? I'm going to move on.
So it's important, actually, to look at Zillow, because that's usually the number they already got in their head.
Could be a benchmark, but okay. But many times Zillow, most of the time, I don't think they've gone inside the house to see the condition, the improvements.
Oh, we know.
Right? Okay. Complete all the documents. Complete them all, except for the TDS and SPQ. Don't complete those, okay? We're going to talk about those. But the other documents you're going to complete. So here are the forms that I take with me, and the ones that I need when I take this listing right now, the ones that are imperative is the agency disclosure, the listing agreement, and the seller advisor. I need those right now when I'm ready to take that listing. I need them right now. I don't need to have the TDS filled out right now. I don't need to have the SPQ filled out right now. I may not need an authorization to exclude at all, and maybe they don't want to give up a key, so I don't need a key safe addendum. But these 3 here, I got to have them. And I'm going to have them completed, and I'm going to have them highlighted where I want them to authorize. And I complete my listing agreement. I put the date start and the date ending. Always have a beginning and an end date on a contract. If you do not have an end or beginning date or both on a contract, it is not a valid contract. Did you all hear me? You must have a beginning date and an ending date. And you could always change it when you get there. And they say, well, I don't want to put my house on the market right now. And I'll say, well, you don't. And they'll say, well, no, I don't. I said, well, when do you want to put it on the market? Now I got them talking about putting it on the market right now, right? So now the discussion is not whether I'm going to put it on, but when am I going to put it on the market? You got it? So I started that conversation. And then we go into, oh, well, I think it's going to take me a month to get all this stuff out of here. I said, oh, no problem. You sure it's only going to take you a month? Yeah, it'll take me about a month. Oh, that's where my authorization to exclude comes in handy. Because I want to walk out of that house with an signed or an approved listing document. And I don't want to get fined by the local MLS. How many of you have folks who are kind of haters? You know people that are haters? Let's say you get a listing, you didn't have the proper dates on it, and they're mad because you took it in their farm area, or you listed their cousin's house, right? And they find out the date wasn't proper, and they're going to call in anonymously and report you. So here's how you avoid that. You diffuse that by getting an authorization to exclude from MLS, and I believe you can go on to srar.com, and you look under forms, and under forms you click, and it's right there. The change form is there, and this form is there too. It's not on zip forms. Did y'all hear me? You're not going to find it on zip forms. You're going to find it where?
SRER.
SRER, and you go under forms, right? Residential forms. All right, and so TDS, how many of you complete the TDS for your sellers? Let's see your hand. You complete your TDS for the sellers? Huh? Oh, great. No, you do not fill the TDS out for your sellers. There's a portion of the TDS for the agent, and you can fill that out. And I usually say refer to the agent visual inspection. Right? I usually say on there refer to the agent visual inspection, but I do not fill out the TDS, and I would encourage you, do not, because if you do, you are breaking the law. Okay, and you're putting yourself up for heavy-duty risk if anything goes down that was not properly disclosed. If you fill that out for your seller, you are totally against the rules of real estate. Do not complete it. Well, I don't know what to say, Keith. You know what? I can explain to you what this means, but I cannot fill it out for you. So you need, well, can you sign it? I don't write very good. You need to have them figure it out. You got it? Stay out of it. All right. Don't put yourself to that risk level. And SPQ, what does that stand for?
Seller property questionnaire.
All right. Just remember this. When you get a listing, the best thing to do is try to get this all completed within the first week of getting that listing, because you're going to get a sale, and you want to have that ready to get to that buyer's agent so the buyer's agent can get it to their clients right away. And I want you to know this. Let's say you have all your contingencies all expired, and maybe they removed all contingencies and the buyer signed off, and guess what? You did not give the buyer the TDS. Guess what happens to all your contingencies?
They get 3 more days.
They get, I think it's 7 more days that they get from the time that they receive that TDS. So if you do not give them the completed, executed TDS by the seller, what you're basically telling your seller is that, I'm derelict in my duty, I'm not doing my job for you, because all those contingencies that you were so hard-pressed to have the buyer sign off on, they don't amount to much at all unless you've given this TDS to that buyer's agent. Are you hearing me? All right, so please, make sure your client gets it all completed. All right, so service your listing. Here's how you service your listing. Ask your seller how often they want to have updates. Most of us don't do this. And so we get a listing. How many of you got a listing and it was overpriced? Oh, most of you never had a listing then. Never had a listing that's overpriced? Oh, wow. You guys are experts. Okay. All your listings sell in the first 30 days, everybody? Oh, yeah.
I did.
That's cool. Mine did, okay. That tells me that mine did, okay. Mine have, okay, all right. Okay. You need to get more listings. Let me just say that. All right, so ask the seller how often they want to be updated. Ask the seller what form of communication do they want to be updated with. Some of you may want to update your seller. They're an old school seller, and they want you to come sit down with them and have a cup of coffee and tell them. Some of them, like, they're super busy. They just say, you know what? Just send me an email or just text me. You need to find out how your clients want you to communicate with them, because you may be communicating with them in a form that they don't really care to receive communications for. Oh, I sent it to your email. Well, I never look at that email.
Sure.
If you have somebody say, I never look at that email, right? So find out from your clients how they want to be communicated with, and you're going to find out how often, and then what you're going to do is you're going to set a date with them. Okay, you want to be communicated with once a week? All right, I'm going to call you on Monday between this time and that time to give you an update. And you just put it in your little reminder, and you stay on track with what you're saying. And when you do this, if that listing is overpriced and it hasn't sold, and you're giving them these regular updates, you have a right to ask for a market adjustment. and you're not likely going to lose that listing to another agent. Here's what happens. Agent gets the listing, listing's overpriced, agent did a bunch of open houses, nobody's making offers, agent gets frustrated, this seller's not realistic, and so what happens? Eventually the listing expires, and a month, 2 months has gone by, and the listing agent has not stayed in touch with that seller. And so, you know what that other agent is going to say? Well, when's the last time you talked to your agent? Well, you know, I saw him about a month ago when he did an open house. Oh, no, I would stay in touch with you. How often do you want to be staying in touch with Mr. and Mrs. Tan? Oh, once a week? Okay, Mrs. Tan. Oh, you know, what day? Okay, Mrs. Tan. I'll be in touch with you on that day every week. You see, now you're in a position where you're going to get that listing that expired because the other agent did not stay in touch. And maybe they stayed in touch, but not the way the client wanted them to stay in touch. Maybe the client wanted an update every other week or every 2 days. Whatever they say, you're in an agreement with them. You need to keep that. Explain the showing protocol. You guys know what the showing protocol is?
Yes.
All right? No. Okay. Showing protocol is that how do people get to see your property? Is there a key safe? Do they call first? Is it by appointment only? Is it by appointment call first? Is it go direct? You know, how do people get to see the property? And who should the seller let in to see the property? A lot of times somebody will knock on the door. Hey, I see your house on the market. Can I see it? You need to tell your seller, no. My broker's number is on that sign. Call them. Or here's my agent's business card. Can you call her? You see? This is what you want to do there. You tell your client there are a lot of people out there with some, I'd say intentions that are not good.
Unprofessional, I call them. Unprofessional people. I mean, are you talking about buyers?
Yeah, buyers and agents.
And agents.
Yes.
Because, those are very unprofessional.
Yes.
Unethical.
Yeah.
No, you got to be kidding, Anna.
So what you want to do is you want to explain to your client, the owner, the proper protocol. No, Mrs. Tan, never let anyone come into your house without an agent. Oh, Mrs. Tan, when that agent comes, they should have at least their business card on it. And they should have their photo, even though it might have been their high school picture on it. They should have their photo on that business card, right? Mrs. Tan. So what you're going to do is you're going to explain these things to them, and you're going to say, Mrs. Tan, would you please keep all those business cards so that when I come by, I can follow up with those prospective buyers and their agent, right? So you're going to ask them, can you install a key safe? Now, on our side of our market, the Santa Cruz Valley, I would say probably 85% of the people have key safes. But if you go on the other side of the hill, 85% of the people do not have key safes.
What is that, like, the thing where you...
It's an electronic key box where the key is stored inside that box.
And they can go check it out themselves?
Only agents can check it out, not private parties, only agents. So 80% of them on the other side of the hill is shown by appointment only. They're not going to have a key safe. On our side of the hill, there's different, practices most people do. And do you think it's better to have a key safe or not?
Yes. Yes. Better to have.
Why?
It's easier. Yeah, better access. Better access, easier access for buyers at the time that's convenient for them.
Right.
So buyers can go look at it themselves?
Nope.
No, you have to go with them?
Yep. That's right.
That way
Only the buyer do not have access to the lockbox or the key safe. Only the agents do. Okay? All right. So there's another reason that you want to have a key safe. A key safe has a mechanism on here that tracks who's going in the property. It tracks not only the name of the person, but the company, the time and date, right? And the date that they actually went in. So what I want you to do, I want you to set the notification feature on your super, on your electronic key box. Did you know you had one?
Yes.
Did you know that you can be notified anytime anyone accesses the property on your key box? And you can have your key box all set up where you're being notified. And you'll know, that's key box over here on the property on Jameson. Oh, this one here is on the property on Sylvan. All right? You can actually have that set up whether the house is vacant or not, so that you will know who's going in and out of your property. And I tell my sellers who are hesitant to give me an extra key, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we can track who's going in and out of your property. As long as they're using that key box, we can track it. Wouldn't you want to know who went in your house? And they say, oh, I'm at home all the time. You mean you never go shopping? You never go to the movies? You don't go to, the temple or church? You never go anywhere? You stay in the, I never go anywhere, right? Most of the time they're going. They're going to go somewhere. And so this is a thing you do. You ask for the notification, and one of the things that I like to do is take this notification, and I can go on to Super, and I can print out a report, or I can email a report to the client letting them know how much activity we've had on their property. Doesn't that make you look better than the other agents out there?
Yes.
Yeah, you can notify folks what kind of activity they're getting. Call the sign up. Sometimes the owner do not want to have a sign on the property. I tell them, it's a good idea if we have a sign. Well, I don't want my neighbors to know. Then, I'm not going to fight them if they are just adamant that they do not want to have a sign up. I'm not going to fight them. I want to get that listing, right? Because I know that probably only 10% of the people who are buying a home are buying because of that sign anyhow. I'm not going to get hung up on that. But the sign is to my benefit, isn't it?
Yes.
Why?
Marketing for the neighbors.
Marketing to neighbors, marketing to buyers, more market share, right? Recognition. Advertise the open house. Do an open house. I try to do a broker open house on all my listings first. I do an office open house first, then a broker open house, and then I do an open house for the public, at least one. And I explain to the seller the protocol. This is Mrs. Seller, when we do the open house, I don't want you here. I just tell them straight up, I don't want you here. Well, can I be here? No, it's not a good idea for you. Why not? I don't want anybody to steal anything. Oh, if you have any valuables, I think you should lock them up. Go put them in your safety deposit box. Put them somewhere, right? But I don't want you here. I want people to give us their complete, unaltered comments about your house so that we can market your house to the best ability we can and get it sold and get the most money. Isn't that what you really want, Mr. Seller? So I explained it to them that way. All right, so I tell them I don't want them there during the open house. Well, I want to watch the game. Can you go to your neighbor's house? Somebody go to your kid's house? Can I buy you a ticket to the movie? So you do the movie. Take your wife out to the movie somewhere, right? But I don't want you here. Place the property summary sheet on the property. Information sheets about the property there. So when people come in, they will have some basic information. I'm going to move on. Is there any other comments or questions before I move on?
Do you bring in that sheet to the one?
On the listing appointment, yes. I give them a range, depending on what price range I think it'll sell for. Do you? Yeah, I'm asking you. You know what I found out? When somebody asks me a question, it gives me the right to ask them a question. That's what I found out. When somebody asks me a question, I'll answer their question first, and then I'll ask them a question. Yes, William?
Usually what I do, Lily, is I figure out what I think the price is going to be, and I ask escrow to prepare an estimated closing statement rather than a net sheet.
Very well done, William. And you can do that. Our escrow officers are prepared to do that for you. They'll do an estimated HUD-1 or a net sheet for you, okay?
And it's so much easier because it's somebody else, not you, giving them all those fees.
Okay. All right. Meet with the seller at least 2 times per month. If you want to keep your transaction on track, meet with them. Sometimes we get busy and we forget about our sellers, and they're stewing, they're mad that their house is not selling. And maybe their house is not selling because they're so fixated on getting a certain price, and that price is not the market, right? So meet with them. This is one of the ways you keep your credibility throughout the listing period, is by meeting with them, giving them an update. And what you want to do is give them a market update. Show them what's happened since their house came on the market. Let's say you put the house on the market, Lillian. A month and a half goes by. Only one offer came in. It was what you call a lowball offer, right? Nobody else has written an offer. And so you meet with the seller and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Clay, since your house has been on the market, there's been 5 other homes come on the market, and 4 of them are already in escrow. what is that telling them? It's almost like, you know what? The market is moving. It's not me. It's not me not showing your house. It must be something else. I wonder what it could be. All right? All right. Give them the showing comments, feedback from other agents who've showed the property. So you might say, how do I find out? Well, you got that key safe. You call the agent and say, hey, thank you for showing my listing. What did you think? Oh, Mel, that's a dog. And I don't mean the dog that was in the backyard. I mean the house. It's really bad. Oh, Mel, this house is really overpriced. Oh, Mel, there's no way this is going to, meet FHA terms, Mel. And so I bring this information back. I do not tell the client the agent's name. I do not tell the client the agent's name because in case that agent comes in with the offer and that agent said, this house is really a money pit, right? I don't want that agent to be maligned before their offer gets presented. Okay? All right, so ask for marketing adjustment. What's a marketing adjustment?
Price reduction.
Price reduction also could be changing the terms. Maybe they should consider paying some of the buyer's closing costs. Right?
You're paying 3% to the selling agent instead of 2.5%.
There you go. You know what I do oftentimes is that I will tell the client, I think we should make an adjustment from $450 to $430. But instead of us doing it all the way down to $430, why don't we raise the commission? And I'll show them, okay, if we raise that commission, that's only $4,500, right? Why don't we pay a higher commission? We'll pay a bonus on the commission side. And we'll reduce the property, instead of reducing it the whole $20,000, maybe we'll reduce it, maybe $15,000, right? Or maybe reduce it $10,000, but pay a $5,000 bonus on the commission. Does that make sense? How many do you like to have a bonus on your commission? Anybody? Yeah. Yes, William.
Real life example, Reseda, the townhome I had listed with a tenant with a 5-year lease, had to market it to only investors, which was hard because investors don't want to pay market value. So in the course of the process, and it was a year-long listing, got the price reductions as we went through, but the big thing that sold the property in the end is that the last price reduction, we offered a $2,000 bonus to the selling agent, and that agent sold the property, and when she brought her offer, and now, I want to make sure, because we said with a full price offer on the reduction that they would get the bonus. They wrote a little bit less, and she wanted to make sure she was going to get the bonus. So when the seller and I worked out the numbers, we included her $2,000 bonus in the number that was there, and that put the deal together after a year. So bonuses are good ways to attract agents to bring their buyers to your listing when you have something that's maybe stalling.
Thank you, William. So William was saying that when he had a listing that was a year-long listing, it was it was a tenant occupied, he had to market it primarily to investors, and while he was asking for price reduction, he asked the seller to make a concession and give a bonus to the buyer's agent, and that was the difference in getting this offer accepted and ultimately closing the transaction. Right, William?
Right.
Okay. All right. Explain some things to your seller. Proper communication is key. Explain to your seller what FHA terms mean and what impact it will have on them. Some folks don't know what FHA terms mean. Some folks don't know that FHA has a higher standard for the property than a conventional sale would. And so maybe they had a bunch of improvements that were not permitted. Maybe the condition is not in the best condition. So maybe FHA is not the better way to go. But maybe it is the only way to go because the only people who are willing to buy that property is an FHA buyer. So, or maybe it's a VA buyer. You explain to the seller, for example, a VA buyer will not pay closing costs. They don't pay loan fees, right? And so the seller has to pay the escrow fee for the VA buyer. You need to explain that thing, those terms, not that thing, those terms to your seller and say it like this. Well, I represent veterans. In fact, I'm United States Navy, retired. And most of my clients are veterans, and, don't you think it's a great idea for people to serve their country? So you open up with that, oh, no, I don't like the military, right? Okay. But most people love the military because it protects our freedom. So he said, when we offer it to a veteran, wouldn't it be great for a veteran to buy your home? Somebody who put their life on the line and now they're trying to buy a home for their family or for themselves. Most people say yes. I remember losing a sale that was a above list price sale to another agent and their buyer, and the seller said, oh, your offer was a really good offer, we appreciate it, but this other offer was a veteran using VA terms, and we decided to sell to that veteran instead of a non-veteran. These things happen, right? All right, okay. What's that?
Subjective decisions.
People have a right, it's their homes.
That's
Right? Preset your marketing adjustment date. What I do is sometimes if I think I have a listing that's overpriced and I told the seller why I think it's overpriced, what I'll do is I'll say, why don't we do this? Since you're so fixated on selling your home for $490,000, and I think it's going to sell for less than that, why don't we do this? Why don't we put it on the market for the first 30 days? And then after that, if we have no offers that you've accepted, let's automatically have a price reduction to $485. And then I have it written into the terms of the listing that on this date, the list price is going to be reduced to $485. What benefit did that do?
Got the property price reduced without having to go back to the seller to.
That's right. You got the price reduced without having to go back to the seller. Yes?
So listen, when you put that in the contract, do you still need to sign off on it, or it's automatically done?
Who signed up? The seller again?
Seller, correct.
No, it's already, the contract is a contract. It's already pre-signed. It's already signed off. You don't need to have anything else signed up because you already have authorization. I've even had it, I remember I had a listing last year and I couldn't figure out what the price should really be. So I started out at a price, and then every 2 weeks we were reducing the price by $5,000. I had it all pre-printed. And we finally got to the right price. But it was already pre-printed. My client was very busy, always traveling around the country, and I didn't have to chase him down to get an authorization to reduce the price. So I had it pre-printed in the listing agreement and signed by the seller. And I didn't have to chase him around. I just let him, okay, now this week we've lowered the price, but I didn't have to do anything other than just sending him a notification saying we've lowered it. Doesn't that save a lot of time and effort? Because a lot of times the sellers say, oh, we'll think about it, well, we'll lower it then. And sometimes when then comes up, they're not ready to lower it, right? You had that? People say, oh, yeah, we'll lower it later, and they don't want to lower it later? Well, I think my house is, I got a lot of activity. I think my house is worth it. All right. And I want you to ask for referrals. How many of you ask for referrals while you have listings? I want you not to wait. Do not wait until the transaction closes to ask for referrals. Ask for referrals all throughout your relationship with that client. Because guess what? They may have friends or relatives who want to buy or sell some real estate. And so you need to ask for that referral during the transaction. All right, so that's that. Let me move on to one other thing, and I'm going to close down with this. Let's see if I have it here. Sample. There you go. Okay. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Is that focus?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so let's want to walk through this. We talked earlier about the type of forms that you need to have, and I'm just going to walk you through them real quickly because I know most of you already seen this before. All right? You may. Thank you. All right, so the first thing I do on any relationship I have with the clients, I bring this form out here. And I explain this is not a contract. This is a disclosure. So I make it very clear to the owner, this is not a contract, this is a disclosure. And I said, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a duty to tell you about this, and I have a duty to have you acknowledge that I've told you this. And so I bring out this form here, agency disclosure. And I tell them at the beginning, I said, it says here, there's a civil code. You see this thing up here, it says civil code. What does civil code mean? It means a law. There's a law that says that I need to tell you about this. So it's not just me, Mrs. and Mrs. Seller, the law is requiring me to tell you about this. And it also goes on to say that when you enter into it's not a contract, It's enter into a discussion. That's what this says. When you enter into a discussion with an agent regarding real estate transaction, you should from the outset means from the very beginning, you should talk about agency relationship. And so I go into what my duties are as a listing agent. And I say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a fiduciary duty. And I say, they said, what does that mean? I said, it means I have to really fight for your interests, not mine. Then I give them some examples, not for my commission, because they're all thinking you want your commission, right? Not for my broker, not for the buyer, not for the escrow, not for the bank. My job is to fight for your interests. And so I do that. So I move on to that, and then I go on to these other duties that I have of integrity, honesty, loyalty, diligence, and doing all these things. All right? And then what I have down here, you see here? You see that? You see that line right there? That's the line that the agent that's taking the listing needs to fill out. So what I do is after I go through that and I explain it to Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how do you feel about having that kind of relationship with me? That I'm going to be honest with you. You want me to tell you lies? You want me to tell you the truth? Right? How do you feel about that, Mrs. Seller, that I am going to look out for you and not for myself? And they all say, oh, that feels good, Mel. Okay. Then I'm going to take my little pluma and I'm going to fill this form out right here. I'm going to sign it myself. Now I got them in the habit of seeing something approved. Got it? And then I'm going to give them the pen, because this has already been highlighted. I'm going to say, I need you to authorize this too. Oh, I don't want to sign a contract. Oh, listen to the seller. Let me tell you something. This thing here says, I read it carefully and we acknowledge a receipt of the copy of this disclosure. This is not a contract, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. This does not obligate you to list your house with me. But what it does is it gets me from breaking the law. You don't want me to go to jail, do you? Would you come visit me? Right? That's what I say to them. I say stuff like that, and they're like, oh, okay, I don't want you to get in trouble, Mel. All right, so then I need your authorization there. And then I'm going to move on. I think that's enough to cover. The rest of these things you guys already know. We went over them before, but this is a powerful one. What I typically do is I fill out everything except for the price on my listing. I do the dates, and guess what else I fill out? I fill out the commission. I fill the commission out before I get there because I know what I want to get paid. I fill it out ahead of time, and if they want to negotiate with me, well, we can start negotiating about it, right? And then I'll say, well, they say, do I have to pay 6%? I said, no, but I said, that's what I want to get, and that's what I deserve, and I'm going to really work hard for you to get that. And it says, and I go into this whole thing here, and I explain to them. When they start talking about commission, I said, the rate of real estate commission is not fixed by law. I said, some of my clients, I charge 7%. And I said, the ones that give me a lot of trouble, I ask for 10%. So, you going to give me trouble? All right. So, that's what I do. All right. Listen, I've covered everything that I wanted to cover this morning. Is there any questions or comments about anything? Yeah, that's all you're going to get because it's my listing.
To do anything,
Huh?
to do anything in real estate, like you're gonna have to get a listing, I guess you have a real estate license.
Some agents don't want to fight it, but hey, that's what I'm offering.
Yep. All right, so any questions?
And then
Can you turn that light on, please? Can you turn the light on?
Yeah, but, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Under the marketing itself, when you put to reduce the price for the.
Oh, and I put it on here on the terms, additional terms, right here. Additional terms, right there. I put it right there. And then sometimes if it has multiple additional terms, I have a separate addendum that I have them authorize. Okay? Cool. Thank you. Got it. All right, next week we're going to go into problem solving when you have a transaction. We're going to go over extensions and notice to perform and all these different things, okay? Take care. All right, thank you. Have a good one.